Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay. So can we start?
yeah, sure.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We live in an Earth full of tech. We have internet and laptops that can gain information conveniently. But at the same time, there is some ignorance about the cybersecurity. Today, our group will introduce an example, Superfish. I'm Wenqi. I will introduce the background and technical overview. Case will take on the technical analysis. Joy will go through the consequences of this superfish issue. Finally, Siying will link the contents to our module and give a conclusion. Let's move on to the next slide. So let's start with the basic question. What is Superfish? Superfish was a company which provides advertisements and developed advertising softwares using visual search engines. Lenovo, which is a hardware provider, pre-installed Superfish on new laptops which produced by their company. Superfish will provide advertisements to users, as many users do not need advertisements all of the time. Superfish is a malware. But that is not the aim. From February 2015, people found that Superfish used techniques to do something more. Let's move on to the next slide. Superfish is designed to supplement the shopping experience and show users different search results and advertisements from the original website. To be more precise, Superfish can inject advertisements into the web page by saying and modifying the content of web page. Let's now move on to the next slide. But here is the problem. While aiming on supplement user shopping experience, Superfish needs to have the ability of seeing and modifying the content of web page. However, most websites use SSL to encrypt traffic and prevent eavesdropping by hackers. Superfish bypasses this by hijacking these SSL connections. The next, although the inconvenience of Superfish may not be bad, the software itself that it creates has a lot of access to do more guilty things. For example, man-in-the-middle attack can occur. Also, it can install a self-signed root certificate into the laptops and let some non-secure websites have certificate authority. The private key of Superfish SSL certificate has been extracted and published on the internet by hackers, so it has weak password problems as well. Then let's move on to the next slide. When we visit a secure website, for example, HTTPS, how do we know if the website is truly secure? How do we know if the input data that the key is encrypted and safe as it traverses the internet? A certificate authority is an entity that issues digital certificates, and a good CA is recognized and trusted by almost everyone. It can issue a digital certificate that assures that the website visited is authentic and that to guarantee the communication is confidential for users. Here are some of the choices. For example, VeriSign, GeoTrust, Global Sign, and so on. Next, Case will do some technical analysis for the Superfish incidents. Welcome.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. Okay. So as we mentioned before, Superfish wants to enhance user shopping experiences, and we mentioned that they have to first see and modify the websites that the users visit. But this is very difficult to do with the current SSL TLS protocol. So Superfish will have to do a man-in-the-middle attack, MITM. So firstly, you'll install a root certificate signed by itself on user's laptop as a trusted CA. So, okay. Next, for every website the user visits, the Superfish will generate certificates on the fly, signed by themselves. Since the Superfish certificate is installed as a root certificate, the browser will trust it, and whenever data that the user sends can be decrypted by Superfish. So in a sense, all your traffic to and fro from any websites like Google, or your online banking services passes through the Superfish man-in-the-middle layer, where it's temporarily decrypted and re-encrypted. So, like what we said, users have to trust Superfish not to do anything illegal or unethical with that decrypted data. Next. Here's the difference between the SSL certificate on the same website. On the left one is on the non-infected one. As you can see, it's by a legitimate CA and trust but on the right side, it's by Superfish. So even if Superfish is a genuine company that does not do anything with the user's decrypted data, there are still 3 key vulnerabilities. Next. The first vulnerability is that Superfish does not check whether or not the initial certificate from the web service is valid. So while a user's browser might issue a warning message that this certificate is untrusted or is expired, Superfish does not do that due diligence and still proceeds to connect to the website regardless. So from the user's perspective, even if the website certificate is invalid, the user can only see a valid certificate signed by Superfish. Next. The next one is that, Superfish certificate is installed with root permissions, the highest level of authority in a computer, and they ship both the private and public key on every single laptop. And the fact that they are non-unique means that once you have the private key, anyone can issue, the private and public key for this Superfish certificate is the same on all laptops. So once that private key is known, anyone can issue certificates for websites and sign it with this Superfish key, and which means that all laptops with Superfish installed will trust websites with a Superfish certificate, whether it's genuine or not. Next. Okay, this should not even happen. Comodia is a company that worked with Superfish to implement this man-in-the-middle attack via SSL TLS interception, but the fact that they protected this private key with a very weak password so shows that even a simple dictionary attack could have been done to get a password to access the private key. So with the key password pair, anyone with malicious intent can just intercept data or inject malicious code for any certificate signed by Superfish.
Hello. Hello. Can hear? Hello.
Yes, can hear.
Okay, yeah, okay. I will now talk about how the private key of Superfish was leaked. So, like, even in the best case scenario whereby Superfish does not abuse their authority, the password for its private key was actually cracked and published on the internet by a guy named Robert David Graham from Errata Security. And it was actually done in about 3 hours by using a dictionary password cracker, John the Ripper, along with the other things like grep command to try only the lowercase alphabet to reduce the search time. So with this leaked private key and password, and also coupled with the fact that the private key was not unique, malicious website can now self-sign their own website using this private key, and all the infected PCs with Superfish installed will then trust this malicious website, since Superfish is considered a trusted root certification authority to this PC. Next. Okay, so since the private key has been leaked, so I will now like to talk about the attacks that could be carried out due to this. So now that the attacker has the private key of a CA that is trusted by the infected PC, one such possible attack is a man-in-the-middle attack, and also a combination of phishing with a spoof website that has a legitimate certificate can be quite lethal. So for example, a user can be tricked into entering a spoof website that looks extremely alike to the authentic website. Then from there, the user will then proceed to key in his or her credentials, not knowing that it is actually a spoof website. Okay, next. Okay, so for example, in this image shown, a user can be tricked into entering their credentials. So phishing, it means it's an impersonation. So can be things like exploiting common typos. So for example, in this example, you can see Steam community and Steam community. There was a typo there. But if the user does not realize, and so like by signing the spoof website with the private key of Superfish, the attacker can make the website look even more authentic, since the infected PCs will view Superfish certificate as a trusted root CA. And like in a more serious case, like bank account credentials could also be leaked to the attacker. Okay, next. So another thing is the spoof website signed by the trusted is signed by like so-called the trusted CA lah. So like warnings such as this, the image show does not happen. So like for example, those careless or like more naive users that do not notice the fake URL or the or their typo, then they will then proceed to key in their credentials since there are no warnings prompted. And even some careful users might be tricked because they see the padlock beside the spoof website. Because usually if it's unauthenticated, don't have the padlock beside, as can be seen in the previous slide. Okay, next. So another kind of attack is by packet sniffing. So even without the use of a spoof website, the attacker with the private key can intercept by using things software like Wireshark, traffic monitoring software. So they can tap into the network, and then they can monitor the packets as it is en route from the source to the destination. Then since they got the private key of the destination, then they can decrypt this without even impersonating the server by making use of the known private key. Okay.
Okay, so now that the technical analysis and background of Superfish is done, so these are actually the 107 topics that are involved like in this Superfish content. So firstly, of course, is CIA. Then from lecture 4, we have information about the certificate and CA, and also the public passwords and public keys under PKI. And then in lecture 5, is linked to the man-in-the-middle attack, and specifically is attack at the internet layers and the TLS and SSL layer, which is actually layer 3. And then lastly, this is the vulnerability in a secure communication channel, which was covered in lecture 9. Yeah. So for CIA, right, actually under confidentiality, from client's point of view, this is a breach of confidentiality, because things like their passwords, personal data, or even compilation of data that can make up big data is leaked from their laptop. And then under integrity, this is a breach of the integrity of their browsing data, because they can be eavesdropped by hackers, or this information can be even misused entirely if the attacker doesn't even bother like continuing making the request between the client and server. So lastly, under authenticity, the browsing experience of the client is compromised, because even though Superfish tries to enhance their browsing experience, the unwanted ads are still injected, and is also based on data which the client may not even have consented to share in the first place. So the consequences of these breaches are that client satisfaction will definitely drop, might even lead to a drop in sales, and in more serious cases like in US, Superfish has actually faced lawsuits regarding this breach. Specifically, is for the breach in confidentiality. And then possible improvements or preventions for this kind of problems. For the developer side, you should try not to create your own certificate to validate a web service, because creating your own certificate means that it won't be verified by the CAs, so it might actually be prompted as unsafe. And then secondly, don't encrypt it with a weak password, obviously, cause like it can lead to roach CAs spoofing with seemingly legitimate certificates, which can like result in naive users giving away their personal data. And then thirdly, you should check the CA, especially when browsing important information online, such as when you need to enter personal details, I don't know, for like SingPass kind of thing, or like when you're accessing banking services. Yeah. So for the client side, unfortunately, if you have such malware, try and uninstall it completely or reinstall the operating system without this malware. And then lastly, you should, for the client side, they should try and keep up with security updates or at the very least keep up with news regarding security lapses. So for example, in like the recent case with Zoom, since you know about the possible security breaches, then you should take steps to like secure meetings instead of like continued blind usage. Yeah, so overall in conclusion, right, we know that Superfish is a malware that is pre-installed in Lenovo laptops, and then it's a malware that hijacks the SSL or TSL connections, allowing the decryption of traffic between the client and browser, which allows hacker to eavesdrop or take away information. So this is a man-in-the-middle attack that is further compromised by a weak password, leading to a private key that is now publicly known. So in this era, it compromises all the CIA aspects from the client's point of view. Yeah. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Nothing much regarding Superfish itself. Okay, but a general question for you guys: why do we need more than one root CA, the certificate of more than one root CA installed? Why do we trust multiple CAs by default? Right, you have the list of certificates right in your own computer. You can see that you have things like DigiCert, GlobalSign, and stuff, and many others. So why do we need so many?
Mm. Wait, is it anyone can answer?
Yeah.
I guess like you would want to have multiple root CAs in the event where one is compromised, and then the others can still kind of work for you, but you don't want it to like overtake like the root.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, I can't really draw it, but it's like you have a root and then you have like other CAs that is like approved. So like if the one under the root is like compromised, then at least like you still have other things that can verify for you. But if you overtake like the root completely, then
Okay. Other than that, let me think. Okay, you mentioned multiple vulnerabilities regarding Superfish, right? So there's the man in the middle, there's a weak private key, right? So which one do you think will cause a greater issue? Like more likely, in practical terms, will be the one having the like, would that be a security issue? So whether the Superfish is the man in the middle or the private key password was weak.
I think password this week is more of a security issue.
Okay.
Yeah, because of that, like everyone has access to the private key. Then in a sense, it becomes like it is because due to that, then all the infected PC, because they have the Superfish installed, then they trust the root CA. Then because everyone have the private key of the so-called root CA, which is Superfish, then everyone can just make this infected PC trust their website because they will ship out to like trust these Superfish certificates. So with the private key, they can sign it and say like, I'm actually Superfish, but they are not.
Can. I have nothing really. The rest, do you guys have anything for them? Any questions? No. Okay. Thank you. Can I have the next group?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
The first one is basically your availability, right? So if one root CA is down, right, there's another CA to sign certificate. Okay. Yeah.
Hello.
Yep.
Okay, nice. Okay, this is group 4 here. We're going to talk about SSH CRC32 attack. Do I have all my teammates here?
Yeah, I think all of us are here.
Okay, nice. So, sorry, shall we begin?
Yep.
All right. So, this is group 4. My name is Dinesh, joined by Jingxuan, Eden, and Sha for this presentation. Let's go. Okay, so the outline for this presentation is going to be this. We're going to talk about what is this SSH1 CRC32 attack, followed by the vulnerable systems, then followed by how it works from the code point of view. Then we're going to discuss a bit about how to identify the attacks, and finally come up with some solutions for this. So a brief description of the SSH1 vulnerability is that first, let's look at SSH1 in general. Why do we use SSH1? It's because first we want end-to-end encryption. We don't want to have our packets traveling in the net without encryption because this will subject the packets to be vulnerable to sniffers. Two, we want to have strong authentication. So this reduced the use of impersonated credentials. And overall, SSH provides additional benefits such as automatic display setup for accessing the remote system and the ability to tunnel other service like X over Secure Shell, ability to display graphics over a remote server on one's local desktop. Is a huge benefit for SSH users. And overall, Secure Shell is considered a recommended addition to help improve remote security access. So what this attack does to an end user is that an attacker can install a Trojan into the victim's system and take full access if the attack is successful. Okay, let's look at how the Secure Shell had become a potential crypto mining farm for an attacker, starting with the beginning of Secure Shell. It all started in 1995 when, this guy's name, Futo Lino, I don't know, Linum of University of Finland started Secure Shell as an academic project. This academic project soon evolved into a well-respected security enhancement. The Secure Shell became mandatory for remote access in some instances. So 3 years from then, in 1998, SSH was commercialized, and many vendors adopted SSH into their stable builds. A few months in 1998 June, Core SDI, an information security company, released information of this SSH insertion attack. So what this insertion attack does is it is derived from the inherited weakness in the type of integrity checksum as a Secure Shell performs on packages. An attacker with access to the encrypted SSH stream may insert encrypted blocks in the stream that will decrypt to arbitrary commands to be executed on the SSH servers. So in order to fix that, Core SDI released a patch, and many of the vendors adopted it, and they were using it for a number of years. And eventually, Razer BindView Advisory came out and say, hey guys, there is a remote vulnerability in SSH daemon CRC32 compensation attack detector. So they just came out and say there's an issue, and this leads to our topic, this CRC32 attack. So what are the systems that is affected? The following is a list of systems that was affected by the CRC32 attack. Mostly Linux-based system, and we also note that most of the servers are running on Linux, so it's very dangerous. And Cisco product lines. Cisco is well known for their networking and communication devices and software. So all the device that was running on Cisco iOS that supports SSH was infected or subjected to this vulnerability, and also their product line in the firewall and switches as well. Others were not affected. So since then, SSH from version 1 to 2, right? So most of the vendors migrated from version 1 to 2 because it is highly secure, but some couldn't transfer to the SSH2 because of compatibility issues and other issues that they cannot upgrade. Or some systems use SSH2, but they use SSH1 as their fallback protocol in some events. So this SSH1 is something that we need to take into consideration. So now I'll pass the time to Jingquan to carry on. Hello. Jingquan?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this attack only affects systems with SSH1. This is because the vector of attack is through the dattack.c, which is present in SSH1, which is meant to counter the SSH insertion attack that uses this weak CRC32 integrity check. Next. So the vulnerability lies in this integrity check, and dattack.c is used to identify packets with the same CRC32 checksum. However, they did not follow secure programming practices, resulting in this new attack. Next. So now let's take a look at the code at how it works. Next. So in the first part of the code, you see that they declare a few variables. The ones of interest are uint16tn as well as the uint32tl. Next. Next. This is because in this part of the code, they assign this uint32 value L to the uint16n. So this results in possible overflow, which is the main vector of attack. So what can L actually increase to? Next. Just keep clicking. Okay. So you can see that over here, we have a for loop. As long as L is less than hash factor length divided by SSH block size, where hash factor is a function that simply returns 3/2 of whatever variable is passed to it, L will be multiplied by 4. As such, if we set the length of a packet to be large enough, L will then be multiplied by 4 enough times that it is larger than N. Next. This specifically happens when length is at 87832 bytes. The math is on the slides. And it is possible to send such a long packet length because the maximum length is defined to be 256K. So as such, if you set the length to be large enough, this for loop will ensure that L increases to a large enough number greater than 2 to the power of 16. And when it is assigned to N, N will then overflow. Next. So this is interesting because afterwards, the code allocates memory that is based on N. So if N has overflowed to become 0, you now have allocated a block of 0 memory that is pointed to by H. So in older systems, this should fail. But however, currently this actually works. And now you have a pointer pointing to a 0 block of memory somewhere within the stack. So using this, you will be able to access memory within the stack that is offset from this pointer H. Next. So here you can see that at the end of the code, you can indeed access H. You can write a value J to I to the value to H offset by I. But what is I? Next. So you can see over here that I is declared to be hash C bitwise N and -1. Hash C is actually a function that simply takes the first 32 bits of C. And remember that N is 0. And as N is an unsigned value, N-1 will result in max. So hash C bitwise N in max would result in simply hash C itself. And whereas what is the value J? You can see in the for loop above, J is a number that simply increments from 0 all the way until you reach the length of your packet size. So as such, using this incremental value, you can set J to be essentially any value. And at the end, you're able to write this value J, which can be anything, to a pointer H offset by I, which can be anything. As such, you're able to write a value into any part of the memory as long as you know the offset. So using this method, attackers can write random values into memory, such as replacing passwords, login UIDs, allowing them to access SSH without providing a password. Or they can also do things such as replace the function that dattack detected dattack OK is pointing to and allow them to execute shell as root, which is what the attackers did do. So now I shall be passing my time to Eden.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Okay, so now I'll be talking about how to identify these kind of attacks. So firstly is the visual effects of the attack. This is mostly the effects of after the attack been carried out. So what the attack does is that they'll just access the remote. They'll access the computer remotely via the SSH, and then they'll do things which end up having like for example, they like deface, let's say it's a big company, they just deface the company websites by, for example, changing their website name to, let's say, company X sucks, or replace their product pages and links and replace it with links to pornography sites or sites that actually defame or deface the company's name. And as well, and other than that, they also can insert fictitious products targeted for inclusion into their website, in their own website search engines, as so as to generate adverse publicity. Next. Another way to identify the attack is to see a high amount of traffic that's directed at the SSH port. So the reason for this is how the attack is carried out at first is from the attacker point of view, the attacker first conducts a port scan by using Nmap to find a vulnerable server and port that does not have the latest patch that is still vulnerable to this SSH CRC32 attack, which you can see. So and then after they find the vulnerable server and port, the attacker will carry a TSO exploit on the said port and server. And the screenshot that is shown is the TSO attack being carried out at the port, at the vulnerable server at port 2222. Next. So that was the attacker's point of view and what he will do to actually conduct the attack. So when we look from the victim's point of view, right, when this attack is being carried out, the victims, on the victim side, they'll first create a new listening port. And then on the vulnerable port that was mentioned before, the port 2222, as shown on the screenshot on the left, you can see there's multiple attempts to access the port. You can see a lot of time wait and different foreign addresses. And that is the TSO exploit being carried out, which is a brute force attack. That's why you can see a lot of attempts, connection attempts. And also from the right, on the right screenshot, you also can syslogs can also show that there's a lot of attempted connections. And so this will show that if you face a high amount of traffic at a certain port, this means that you are facing a possibility of an attack, of this SSH attack. And not only can you show this, you can not only can you show that the attempted connections from the attacker, the syslog can also show that your port is also being scanned by attacker, which is also another way to identify a potential attack that is coming. So now I'll pass on my time to Anisha, who will talk about the solutions to this SSH attack.
Hi. Okay. So hello, can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
So there are three main ways to deal with an attack after it happens. We're reading a lot of case studies, and this is what we found out. So the three ways were preparation, containment, and recovery. So the next slide, please. Yeah, okay. So the first way would be preparation. So having a comprehensive security policy would be really beneficial because through the security policy, we can outline what the server is expected to do, like the expected behaviors of the server. Because from then, there's like a basis of comparison, right, between the acceptable server and the behavior of a server when there is an intrusion. And from this, we can also establish an effective action plan in the event of an attack, so that no one is caught unaware and does not know what to do. So the next one would be containment. Yeah. Okay. So for containment, what you want to do is you want to isolate the attack, the server that is under attack. So you would reload the one for production from a hot spare, and then take the affected server offline. So this is to ensure that the current threats to the system are somewhat mitigated. So then you would check so once you have taken the affected server offline, you want to check if the remaining systems have been compromised. And you should also review the firewall logs to determine what traffic has passed through in the last 24 hours. So this is to figure out who the attacker is, what he's trying to do, and if there's anything he's after. So finally, the last one would be recovery. Yeah, so you want to restore the system that was attacked and ensure that there's no other so you want to look at the system that was attacked and kind of make sure that there were no other backdoors or weaknesses that were injected in the system, and that the attacker had not like created any backdoors for further attacks. So once all that is done, then you would be able to prevent further attacks like this from happening. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, give you an example. So you guys told me how you prevent individual versus system as well as presented. So let's say I have two integers A and B, and I treat another integer, so C. So C is equal to A plus B. How do I make sure my function to be the negative one over if there's a individual flow. So what give me the condition to check for individual flow.
So I take it C equals A plus B, and then I will check whether the individual was with it.
Yep.
So first, check if A and B are both positive, but C equals A plus B, check if the result is less than A plus B. If the result is less than A plus B, then overflow has occurred. If both numbers are negative, not menacing them.
Okay, so if A and B are more than 0, and the result is negative, so there's no overflow. Anything else?
Depending on the language. If it's against C is like that, like A and B to try and prevent overflow. If the result is negative, or if the result is instead chance they overflow right away, then it comes to the against. Like if the result is positive, like it will be
Yeah.
So if the result is negative, it's like there's overflow.
So for the example that even will be the same for negative.
If it's negative number, is it?
Yep.
If
A and B are negative, what do I check for?
Yeah, negative, and then together.
Yep.
Sorry, you negative number, but you don't want negative number, you check whether the result is positive.
Okay.
So, if the sign of A and B are if the sign of the result is not the same as the sign of A and B, it's likely that there was an overflow.
Yes. Okay. That's correct. whether the sign bit, the most left bit. Yeah. If you're still unsure, you can look at your CSS one channels. Okay, but other than that, don't have much regarding CSS2. It's quite straightforward for the code part. Yeah. Okay. The rest don't have any other questions, then we just call it a day. For the example, just email me your review on the rest of your teammates. Okay, and then our plan. So if anyone didn't do any work, then you just give them 0. Okay, then for the rest, if you have time while you're studying, go and do the feedback. So if you have any module or tutorials, just write it down. So it helps a lot. Okay. Other than that, I'll take quick questions through email regarding your lectures until the start of your assignment, your final assignment, which is next semester, I think. Afterwards, I'll just ignore more related emails. Content related emails. Okay. If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.